as we approach what will probably be the last 3 weeks of this current budget negotiations, we wanted to make sure, leading in, that the work that we've done for the last 5 or 6 months is not lost in this building and not lost to the public. And it really starts first and foremost with, as Senator Costa said, and I want to thank all of our colleagues for being here, as Senator Costa said, counting the money correctly, understanding exactly what it is that we are working with. Now we have a 600, more than likely by June 30th, as this chart over here indicates, by June 30th, more than likely a $600 million operating budget surplus. And the governor's plan and the House of Representatives, the majority plan, the Republican majority plan, does not count any penny of those dollars involved in what it is that they passed out of the House a few weeks ago. So first and foremost, we have to understand that we have to count all of the money that is available to us, and we don't need to make the draconian cuts that were proposed by the governor, that were passed out of the House. We've got to make sure that we count all the money correctly so we don't make the cuts that were discussed. Secondly, all of our work through 3 weeks of budget hearings, countless days and countless hours and weeks and months of conversation with all kind of individuals across the Commonwealth, in fact, bringing in research and work that's been done nationally about what other states have done, we need to make sure that we utilize every savings concept that's available to us to make sure that we do the right thing by Pennsylvania's people. We want to deal with the issues of waste, fraud, and abuse, but we want to make sure that they're targeted appropriately and that we invest appropriately to get the dollars available in the Department of Public Welfare by passing, if you will, a False Claims Act and get that out there so that we can be aggressive about dealing with the monies that's available. But we also need to deal with the options for savings. We know that if we expand managed care across the entire Commonwealth, we can save the state of Pennsylvania money. We know that if we deal with efficiencies in long-term care, we can save the state maybe a couple $100 million just by doing that. We know that if we utilize what's available from us from Washington, D.C., with our hospital community, we can probably bring down $150 million of federal money to come to the state to save the state from having to make those kinds of cuts. We know that if we consolidate our pharmacy purchasing program, we purchase drugs from 17 different agencies across the state of Pennsylvania. Senator Costa has introduced legislation that consolidates that process. We can probably save the state $25 million just in consolidating our pharmacy purchasing program. We know that if we do that, if we utilize the concepts that have been introduced by Secretary Greenleaf, who is our chair of our Judiciary Committee, and we're aggressive about dealing with sentencing reform and merge the Department of Corrections and Department of Probation and Parole, we can probably save the state another $75 million there. There's a huge number of cost savings programs that have thoughtfully utilized that can save the state spending, not hurt Pennsylvania's people, and create dollars that we can throw back into this budget process to refund our higher education community, to put money back into our basic education community, and not have to face some unfortunate false choices that this governor and the Republican proposal is being asked for from their program that they've introduced. We also know, as Senator Costa said earlier, that if we do some things with our tax structure, that we don't, the whole concept about thousands of Pennsylvania corporations escaping their fair payment here in Pennsylvania by dealing with, as Senator Tartaglione has talked about on a consistent basis, the Delaware loophole, by evading their responsibility, by going to Delaware and dealing with their tax program in Delaware, that they're evading their responsibility here in Pennsylvania. That in fact that this whole issue that the state has utilized of this accelerated depreciation, where the state is now accepting a federal program that gives over $100 million in tax cuts to our corporate partners, but they don't pay anything with respect to their fair share. We know that that's unnecessary. We know that if we take our state source system and modernize our state source system, that we can find $100 million of new revenues here in Pennsylvania by taking what works and expanding that. We can make $100 million of new dollars coming into the Commonwealth, and we can utilize that money to have to, again, prevent these draconian cuts that the state is talking about. And finally, if we go on and on and on, there's other opportunities and other concepts that are available that can be utilized. They need to be explored. We don't need to make the cuts. The programs that we've talked about have been fully researched, fully analyzed. All of our senators here have looked at these different concepts and said this stuff can work here in Pennsylvania, and we need to be about the business of making them work and not have to make the cuts that are being discussed right now. So with all of that, we're here standing as we go forward over these next 3 weeks of budget negotiation and say stop the cuts, put Pennsylvania's people first in this process. Let's put Pennsylvania's people back to work. Let's put folks to work. Let's provide the appropriate education that they need. Let's provide the appropriate health care services that they need. Let's make sure that we don't forget the people in this Commonwealth in this rush to get a budget done and to get a budget done on time, which we all support. We want the budget done on time, but we got to be careful with what we come up in this process, that Pennsylvania's people are not put last, but that they're put first.